In a small village nestled beside a gentle river, where endless rice fields stretched out and the sound of birds greeted each morning, lived a young man named Min. Min was an ordinary person like many others in the village. He worked in the fields, cared for his family, and led a simple life. Yet deep within, Min always felt an unnameable void. He wondered, what is the meaning of this life? Why do I drift through days without finding true joy? One day, as he rested under the shade of an ancient banyan tree by the riverbank, Min heard a voice. It came from an elderly man with white hair and a calm demeanor, approaching him. The old man smiled and said, "Young man, have you ever thought that life might be more than what you see before you?" Min looked at him, startled, unsure how to respond. The old man continued, "I bring you a rare opportunity, a journey to explore the depths of your spirit. But only 10 people are chosen, and you are one of them." Min was stunned. "Why me? I'm just an ordinary farmer, nothing special." The old man placed a hand on his shoulder, his eyes gleaming. "It's your longing for meaning that makes you worthy. This journey isn't for the perfect, it's for those willing to open their hearts to seek the light." From his coat pocket, the old man pulled out a small, worn book with a tattered leather cover and handed it to Min. "This is the first key to your spiritual journey. It will lead you to things greater than you can imagine. But you must walk this path yourself. Read it, reflect on it. Tomorrow, I'll return for your answer." Min took the book, his mind swirling with doubt yet tinged with excitement. As the old man walked away, Min opened the first page. The words were simple but powerful: "Ask, and it will be given to you, seek, and you will find, knock, and the door will be opened to you." Matthew 7:7. Sitting under the banyan tree, Min felt a cool breeze sweep through his soul. He didn't know exactly what lay ahead, but for the first time, he glimpsed a spark of hope that his life might hold a deeper purpose. That night, Min couldn't sleep. He thought about the old man's words, about the rare chance offered to only 10 people. If I refuse, will I remain lost in this emptiness forever? He asked himself. The little book lay on the table, a silent invitation. Min knew that if he said yes, his life would never be the same. And in that moment, his spiritual journey began. The next morning, as dawn broke over the rice fields, Min sat by the doorstep, holding the little book the old man had given him. He was still pondering what had happened the day before. The rooster crowed, but in Min's heart, a question echoed: how do I know what's true, what's truly meaningful in this life? He opened the book to the second page. The words read, "I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go, I will counsel you with my eye upon you." Psalm 32:8. Min frowned. Counsel with his eye? How can God speak to me? He muttered. But then, like a gentle breeze, a thought entered his mind: listen. I don't speak with sound, but with what you feel in your heart. Min startled. This thought wasn't like his usual musings. It was clear, strong, and carried an odd sense of peace. He closed his eyes, trying to focus. At first, his mind was a jumble of daily worries: the fields needed water, his mother was ill, friends had invited him fishing. But amid the chaos, another thought emerged: trust in me, and you will understand. Min's eyes snapped open, his heart pounding. Am I imagining this, or is this God's voice? He wondered. Just then, the old man appeared from the village path. He approached Min, his calm gaze unchanged. "What do you think of my offer?" he asked. Hesitant, Min shared his experience: the sudden thoughts, the peace, and his confusion. The old man smiled. You're beginning to see. God doesn't always speak through thunder or grand miracles. He whispers through your thoughts, in the quiet moments of your heart. Min reflected. But how do I know it's him and not just my own ideas? The old man pointed to the book. Compare what you hear in your heart with what's written here. If it leads you to truth, love, and peace, it's his voice. But beware, human minds can be swayed by falsehoods. You must learn to discern. Sitting beside Min, the old man's voice was warm. Yesterday, when you felt empty, you opened your heart to seek. Today, when you heard that whisper, he answered. But this journey requires practice to listen, to understand, to trust. He handed Min a small pencil. Write down the thoughts that come to you each day. Over time, you'll see his guidance more clearly. Min nodded, still uncertain but willing. He wrote in the book, "Trust in me." As the pencil touched the page, a faint light seemed to flicker in his soul. The old man stood, patting his shoulder. "Keep listening, Min. Tomorrow, I'll return to talk about the struggles you face." As the old man left, Min gazed at the words he'd written. He wasn't sure what lay ahead, but he began to believe a greater truth was unfolding from deep within his thoughts, a place he'd never truly noticed before. Days passed since his first meeting with the old man, and Min's outward life remained much the same. The fields still demanded his labor, his mother coughed through the nights, and daily burdens weighed on his shoulders. But inwardly, something had shifted. He carried the little book everywhere, reading its powerful lines and jotting down thoughts that came to him. Yet the emptiness and sense of being stuck lingered. One afternoon, resting by the field's edge, Min sighed at the sky. If God is speaking to me, why is everything still so hard, he wondered. Just then, the old man appeared, as if sensing Min's need. He sat beside him, gazing silently at the sprawling rice fields. "You look weary," the old man said. Min nodded, frustration spilling out. "I've tried listening, trusting, but nothing's better. My mother's still sick, the harvest is failing. If God's there, why doesn't he help?" The old man smiled gently, opened the book, and read, "In this world you will have trouble. But take heart. I have overcome the world." John 16:33. Min pondered, still puzzled. So difficulties are unavoidable. The old man nodded. Yes. Life doesn't promise ease, but it promises you won't face it alone. Struggles aren't a sign of God forsaking you, they're chances to overcome through faith. He shared the story of Job, a man who lost everything, family, wealth, health, yet held fast to faith. Job didn't understand why he suffered, but he trusted God had a greater plan. In the end, he was restored twofold. Min listened, feeling the tale touch a deep part of him. "What should I do?" Min asked. The old man pointed to the book, "Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will act." Psalm 37:5. He explained, when you're stuck, don't try to fix it all yourself. Commit it to God not by sitting idle, but by working, trusting, and asking him to lead. Min closed his eyes, picturing his mother's coughs, the flooded fields, his own helplessness. A thought came, "You are not alone. I am here." Min opened his eyes. "I just heard something in my heart saying I'm not alone." The old man nodded, pleased. "That's the first step. Now, commit your struggles. Speak to him, trust he'll answer in his way, not yours." That night, Min knelt by his mother's bed, whispering, "Lord, I don't know if you hear me, but I commit my mother's health, our fields, and my fears to you. Lead me through. Rising, he saw no instant miracle, but a lightness eased into his heart as if the burden had lessened. The next morning, the old man returned with a small vial of herbal medicine. "A small gift from me, but true strength lies in your faith," he said. Min smiled, hope flickering for the first time in days. His journey to overcome difficulties was just beginning, but he was no longer afraid. After receiving the herbal medicine, Min noticed subtle changes. His mother coughed less at night, though not fully healed. The fields remained affected by rain, but Min no longer viewed them with despair. He began to trust that, however slowly, his struggles were being addressed not by sudden miracles, but by a greater power he was learning to embrace. One afternoon, as the sun faded over the fields, the old man arrived. This time, he brought a small stool, sat beside Min, and asked, "Have you committed your troubles to God?" Min nodded. "I tried, and I feel lighter. But I'm not sure I'm doing it right." The old man smiled. "Committing is the first step, but to truly connect with Him, you must learn to pray." "Pray?" Min said, surprised. "I only know simple words. I don't know how to make it effective." The old man opened the book and read, "And when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. Your Father knows what you need before you ask Him." Matthew 6:7-8. He explained, prayer isn't about fancy or long words. It's a heartfelt conversation with God. Min was curious. "How do I start?" The old man touched his shoulder. "Invite the Holy Spirit into your life. The Spirit is God's breath, the strength that helps you know and feel Him more deeply." He taught Min a simple prayer: "Lord, come into my heart through your Holy Spirit. Guide me, grant me peace and wisdom to live according to your will." He urged Min to repeat it, not just with words, but with his heart. Min closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and whispered the prayer. At first, he felt awkward, as if speaking to the air. But as he finished, a strange warmth spread from his chest, like a small, steady flame. He opened his eyes. "I felt something. Like someone's here, listening." The old man nodded. "That's the Spirit responding to your invitation. The more you practice, the clearer it becomes." He guided Min on effective prayer. "Don't just ask in hardship," he said. "Give thanks for small things: sunlight, breath, a peaceful day. Listen after praying, for God often answers in your heart's stillness." He encouraged Min to spend a few minutes daily talking to God, no rituals, just sincerity. That night, Min sat by the window, gazing at the moonlit fields. He prayed again, "Lord, I thank you for today, for my mother's improvement, for the old man's help. May your Spirit dwell in me, leading me forward." Finishing, he lingered, listening. A gentle thought arose: "I am always here." Min smiled. He was learning that prayer wasn't just asking, but opening his heart to God's presence. The next day, the old man asked, "How did prayer feel?" Min replied, "I feel peace, like I'm not alone anymore." The old man nodded, pleased. Prayer is the bridge to God. Keep practicing, it will become your strength in this spiritual life. Min held the little book, feeling a new connection to what he was learning. Prayer wasn't an instant fix, but a way to find light in dark days. His journey now wasn't just about listening, it was about conversing, a quiet but profound dialogue. As time passed, Min grew accustomed to daily prayer. Life still had its struggles. His mother wasn't fully well, the fields demanded effort, but he no longer felt weighed down. Quiet moments with the book and prayers had become his strength. Yet a new question stirred within: how do I know I'm truly on the right spiritual path? Am I a true believer? One morning, while watering the fields, Min saw the old man approach with his familiar gentle smile. "You seem deep in thought," he said. Min nodded. "I wonder if I'm living right as someone who believes in God. I pray, I listen, but sometimes I doubt, I fear. Does that mean my faith isn't enough?" The old man sat by the field's edge, gesturing for Min to join. He opened the book and read, "The righteous shall live by faith." Romans 1:17. He explained, a true believer isn't someone free of doubt or fear. It's someone who chooses to trust God even amid questions. Faith isn't perfection, it's persistence. Min felt relieved. The old man continued, "There are signs you're on the right path. Look at yourself. Do you love those around you? Seek truth. Admit mistakes and strive to change." Min reflected. He recalled bringing food to a poor neighbor, praying for his mother and village. "I do those things," he said, "but sometimes I'm still angry or selfish." The old man laughed heartily. "Who doesn't falter, Min? What matters is you recognize it and return to God. A common mistake is thinking true believers must be flawless. No. Many think faith is a blazing emotion, but it's a small flame, quiet, steady, needing daily care." He pointed to the book, "By their fruit you will recognize them." Matthew 7:20. What's your fruit? Patience with your mother, hope in hardship, sincerity in prayer. These show you live by faith. Min nodded, grasping that he didn't need perfection to be a true believer. But the old man warned, avoid pitfalls. Don't let pride creep in, thinking you're better because you believe. Don't pray without acting, for faith without works is dead. And don't let the world pull you from this path. Min recalled times he'd skipped prayer for friends or envied others. He saw he had much to refine. That night, under the moonlight, Min wrote in the book, "I want to be a true believer, not to boast, but to live what I believe." He prayed, "Lord, show me my flaws, help me bear good fruit." Closing his eyes, a thought came, "You are mine, and I am shaping you." Min smiled. He wasn't perfect, but he was on the right journey. The next day, the old man asked, "Do you see yourself in those signs?" Min nodded. "I'm not perfect, but I'm trying. I want to live for good, for myself and others." The old man patted his shoulder. "That's the mark of a true believer, a heart turned to God and others. Keep going, Min, this path is worth walking." The rainy season finally ended, leaving Min's fields a tender green, brimming with hope. His mother, bolstered by herbs and his prayers, improved, though not fully. Life wasn't yet easy, but Min no longer felt swept by fear or unrest. He sensed an odd peace, not from problems vanishing, but from learning to live differently. One afternoon, under the banyan tree, the old man appeared, his calm unchanged. "You've changed since we first met," he said, eyes twinkling. Min smiled faintly. "I don't know exactly what's different, but I feel settled. Life's still hard, but it's not so heavy." The old man nodded. "That's a sign you're touching the secret to peace the Bible teaches. Today, I'll help you understand it fully." He opened the book and read, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts." Colossians 3:15. True peace doesn't come from a trouble-free life, but from letting God hold your heart. The first secret is committing. You've started that. but there are others to sustain peace daily. Min was eager. What are they? The old man raised a finger. First, live with gratitude. Even on tough days, there's something to thank: food, a smile, your breath. He pointed to the book. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will. 1 Thessalonians 5:18. Min realized he often overlooked small blessings, fixating on flaws. A second finger, forgive. Resentment is a stone weighing you down. Forgiving doesn't erase, it frees you. He read, forgive each other as the Lord forgave you. Colossians 3:13. Min recalled his anger at a friend who broke his plow. He saw he still harbored a grudge. And the third, the old man said, live in the present with God. Don't let the past torment or the future scare you. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Matthew 6:34. Min nodded. He often fretted over harvests or his mother's health, forgetting today's gifts. The old man's final advice: practice these daily. Wake with thanks. When angry, ask God to help you forgive. When anxious, remind yourself He's here now. Min wrote the secrets down, determined. That night, beside his mother, Min whispered, I thank God you're still here. Before bed, he thought of his friend and decided, I'll forgive him, let it go. Closing his eyes, he prayed, Lord, I commit tomorrow to you. Grant me peace today. He slept soundly, free of nightmares or worry. The next day, the old man asked, have you tried those secrets? Min nodded. I'm not perfect at it, but I feel lighter. Anger and fear don't pull me anymore. The old man patted his shoulder. Peace isn't a destination, it's the road you walk with God. Keep it up, Min, you're living as He intends. Min gazed at the fields, a cool breeze brushing past. Life would still have storms, but with these secrets, he could stand firm and find peace amid them. His journey wasn't just seeking, it was living fully each day in the Bible's light. The new harvest season arrived. The once green rice now bloomed golden under the spring sun. Min's mother, not fully healed, could sit on the porch, smiling weakly as he worked. His life remained simple, but he was no longer the lost young man beneath the banyan tree, clutching emptiness. The spiritual journey with the old man hadn't transformed him into someone else, it revealed the light within him. One early morning, as dew clung to the rice, the old man appeared for the last time. He didn't sit but stood, gazing at Min with pride and tenderness. Your journey with me ends here, he said. Min was shocked. Ends? But I still don't understand everything, haven't done enough. The old man smiled. You've begun, that's what matters. What I've taught isn't to finish, but for you to keep walking. Min held the book, now filled with his notes, thoughts, prayers, lessons. He asked, what have I learned from all this? The old man raised his fingers, counting. You've learned to hear God's voice in your thoughts, overcome struggles with faith, pray to connect with the Spirit, recognize yourself as a true believer through good fruit, and live peacefully with gratitude, forgiveness, trust. He paused, locking eyes with Min. Above all, you've learned God is always with you, even when you can't see. Min nodded, each word washing over him like a cool stream. He recalled his early days of doubt, fear, deadlock. Now, he didn't seek life's meaning in grand questions, but found it in small moments of prayer, his mother's smile, a day's labor. The old man placed a hand on Min's shoulder. I leave not to abandon you, but so you can walk on. This book is yours, but the path ahead is your choice. Keep exploring, applying what you've learned, and share it with those who need it. Min looked at the book, then the old man. I won't forget. I'll live worthy of this journey. The old man nodded and turned to leave. Min called out, will I see you again? Without turning, the old man replied, when you need, you'll find me not through me, but in your heart. He vanished down the path, leaving Min with a mix of emotions but brimming with hope. That day, under the banyan tree, Min wrote a final note, thank you, Lord, for this journey. I'll keep walking not because I'm perfect, but because I know you're with me. He stood, gazing at the fields, and smiled. Challenges lay ahead, but he wasn't afraid. His spiritual journey didn't end here, it truly began. From then, Min lived differently. He didn't keep his faith private, he shared it with his mother, his village friends. Slowly, the little riverside village became more than a place of rice, it was where hearts found peace. And Min, once lost, became a small lamp, lighting the way for himself and those around him.